We are located at 670 Washington Street in Dorchester, Massachusetts. Our zip code is 02124. Our phone number is 617-282-0685. 617-282-0685. The views and opinions expressed by the following paid program are those of the program producers, and they do not reflect the views and opinion of Global Ministries Christian Church, its staff, or management.
This is the time when we open up the doors to you and we let them in. When you're up, let 'em in. When you're down, let 'em in. When you're bound, let 'em in. Let 'em in.
Coming up next will be Pastor Bruce Wall with Morning Inspiration, heard on the Boston Praise Radio and TV network.
This broadcast is being sponsored by Ethos. Ethos delivers free meals on wheels to thousands of older Bostonians. Go to ethocare.org, that's ETHOCARE.org, or call 617-522-6700 to learn more. That's 617-522-6700. We are proud to have Ethos as a sponsor. We want to thank the Taste of Eden restaurant for sponsoring this broadcast. Taste of Eden is located at 38A Norfolk Street in Dorchester, Massachusetts. Call Hoper at 617-283-00. That's right. Call Hoper and let her know that you listen to Boston Praise Radio and TV. I'm your host, Pastor Bruce Wall, and I have a guest who's on the line, and I'll introduce him in just a moment. But I actually have an article in my hands. It reads, it's from the Boston Globe. The Red Sox introduce Breaking Barriers exhibit celebrating the Negro League players. And it says on one of the pages, Frank Jordan, a special advisor to the Red Sox and a co-founder of the Boston Area Church League, which aims to introduce baseball and provide mentorship to undeserved children, was key in bringing the exhibit to Boston for Juneteenth. He has a personal connection. He said his father, and I didn't know this, his father played for the Augusta Bears of the Negro League. Jordan urged young people, including those who packed two buses from St. John's Paul II Catholic Academy, to visit on Monday to encounter the history of the game's black pioneers beyond Robinson. Frank, are you there? Are you there?
Yes, sir.
Well, thanks for calling in this morning. I'm glad we were able to make this connection. I was running around yesterday trying to figure out how we were going to make this happen. And you consented yesterday through a text that you would be available at 8 a.m. this morning to talk about something that's happening at the Emerson College. So why don't you just give us an update and tell us what's happening, and then let's get into it.
First of all, the Negro League Baseball Museum have a traveling exhibit named Barrier Breakers. This exhibit tells the story of the other men that played baseball, that broke color barriers at the rest of the Major League Baseball team. And in this collection, he gives you biographies and historic photos. And many people don't know that there was blacks who broke the color barrier and Latin players who broke the color barrier.
Yep.
And the Negro League was the safe haven for those who wanted to play the game that was excluded by Major League Baseball self-imposed, shall we say, they locked the door and wouldn't let them in, even though these players could play baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And the exhibit will be at Emerson College, 118 Morgan Street. You can go and visit it 7 days a week, 10 a.m. until 5 p.m. daily. And we have been getting crowds of people coming. We opened the exhibit on Monday, and I would say between the time of the news conference and the time we closed on Monday, around 450 people had strolled in. And daily, people strolls in, 1, 2, 3, 4. Sometimes a school will bring a group of kids. They'll come. And with the exhibit, it's a self-tour designed to tell you and want you to take the time and read.
Yep.
And you can take pictures with a player, you know. In the exhibit, there's a nice stand. I think each panel is about 8 feet high, 4 feet wide, and it shows the player, and it gives that player's bio. And I'm going to tell you, when you go through there,
yeah,
and if you leave the exhibit, and you make one statement, wow, I didn't know that.
Yep, yep.
And the reason why you don't know that, because we have allowed others to tell us what our history is.
Right, tell us our story.
Yeah, and I grew up in the South, and our teachers could not teach Black history.
Mm-hmm.
But they gave us guidance and told us to go to the library on our own.
Mm-hmm.
These are the books we want you to read, and we're going to have a book report. So we as a people must take that task on to teach ourselves and our children what our history is all about.
Yes.
And we got to take the power back. Pastor, I really am one of your fans. And I listen to your broadcast over the internet.
Okay.
On my smartphone.
Okay.
And thank God for you. And I thank God for your ministry and mission. And I heard you yesterday morning as I was getting ready to go to the exhibit. It opens at 10.
Mm-hmm.
And I was taken back a little bit. And I'm just going to say it. We as a people need to wake up.
Mm.
We have to get up. And we got to begin to do the right thing by each other.
Mm.
We got to. And we all need to support your radio station. It's not yours. It's the people's station.
Do you,
and the people,
do you find the lack of support for Black radio stations or Black religious radio stations in California similar to what we're experiencing in Boston with the lack of support?
Let me tell you, I don't know one Black-owned radio station in California sole purpose is to teach the gospel.
Mm-hmm.
No. we sometimes have the ability to buy time for a broadcast.
Sure.
Or like, for example, Sunday mornings.
Mm-hmm.
Stevie Wonder's radio station in L.A.
Yes.
And Stevie, since he bought KJLH, has allowed the black church on Sundays, and he's dedicated Sundays broadcasting. Mm-hmm. Some of the biggest and smallest churches in LA broadcast their service on Sunday morning. Mm-hmm. And they do a thing in the afternoon around 2 o'clock, about 3 hours, designed to teach the Bible. And it's a game called Bible Jeopardy, where the person, the narrator, will make a statement and ask the listener, tell me what verse of the Bible this came from, or what book it came out of. And people call in, they got their Bibles ready, because at the end of the day, they get some great prize.
Right, sure.
And people are competitive. And when you call in, you say, I know the guy Barry, he said, caller, where you from? And I call him with pride. I come from the Ebenezer Baptist Church, located at whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop.
Right, give the address, the name of the pastor.
Everything.
Yeah.
And then make sure they say, and Pastor Gene, who is my pastor.
Right, sure, right.
With pride.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see how people began to promote God's ministry with pride.
Right.
When I got in Sunday morning from an overnight flight from the West Coast,
mm-hmm.
I got myself together, and I went over and had Father say at Bishop Hogan's church.
Yes.
Over at Good Shepherd. He's a good friend.
Yeah.
And I needed to go to church. Mm-hmm. Sometimes God put a spirit in you. You gotta go to church.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you, that made my day. I enjoyed the children. I enjoyed the people singing. I enjoyed sitting and listening to the testimony.
Mm-hmm.
And my spirit told me to speak to one of the people that gave a testimony.
Mm-hmm.
And she was telling me that there was a women's facility, correction facility, and the roof of the building that they worship in
mm-hmm.
had been breached. And the roof needed to be repaired.
Yeah.
And she said, we got to raise some money to get that prepared. And I said to her and the congregation, hold up. Hold up.
Mm-hmm.
It is not your duty to raise money to repair a state facility. So you need to know politics to find out who is on what committee for funding the state facility.
Yeah.
That could be your state senator.
Yeah.
That could be your state rep. And when you find that information out, you knock on those doors and tell them, this facility must be repaired. So we got to get out of the digging business and to the action business.
Yes. This morning I'm talking to Frank Jordan. He's a special advisor to the Red Sox and co-founder of the Boston Area Church League. I remember when we first connected a couple years ago, And I had asked you a little bit. You knew a lot about the radio station. I said, how did you know about this radio station? And you did your homework. You checked me out, and you checked out the radio station. You did your homework. You knew how to do it. And we've been trying to connect ever since. And one of the things that you sent me is that you sent me last night a list of all of the people who are volunteering their time for the exhibit. So talk about that, and talk about how people can volunteer to support.
Actually, right now we're at the stage. We want people to come. We want people to bring their kids. Mm-hmm. Come and experience this exhibit, because it tells the true story of the African American players and Latin players that broke the color barrier at each individual baseball team. See, history has not been kind to us. We talk about Jackie breaking the color barrier with the Dodgers. Well, guess what? There's somebody who broke the color barrier with the Chicago Cubs. Other teams. And there's a story of a player, and you'll see his panel, named Monty Irvin. Monty Irvin was the first black player that Branch Rickey was looking at. And they said Monty Irvin's skill surpassed Jackie Robinson's skill. And Monty Irvin, they said, looked like a movie star back in the day, like a Billy D. Williams. I mean, he had it all, man. But the war came, and he went into the Army, and he participated in the Battle of the Bulge. And when he came back from World War II, he suffered from shell shock, which is commonly known now as PTSD.
Yes.
And mentally, he could not handle that part of the pressure. But 2 years later, he got it together, was signed by a Major League Baseball team, and eventually went into the Hall of Fame. That is what people don't know.
Well, I was going to say, you have this history deep in your heart and in your mind. You have all this history, and that's why you're participating in bringing these exhibits around the country. Is significant for all of us to learn from you and to learn from these exhibits. Now, how did you connect with Emerson Collins to provide the facilities for you to be able to have this exhibit?
Well, I'm going to take you back. Remember last year, the luncheon? Boston had Church League luncheon?
Yes.
And Bob Kendrick was my keynote speaker.
Okay, yes.
And Ron Bell interviewed it?
Yes.
And Ron said, when can we get the exhibit to Boston?
Oh, okay.
And all this stuff sounds good, but there's a lot of work goes on to this. And we have to raise a lot of money to bring the exhibit across country. And once the exhibit arrives, there's a team of people that takes 3 days to set it up.
Okay.
And this team comes from the museum itself. Well, there was a deal made with Bob Kendrick, the president, who is a great leader, great man. And the deal was, if you would come to Boston to be the keynote speaker at our luncheon, I will do what I can do to help you find locations for the exhibit.
Yes.
and you got my word. And it was a handshake. Because Bob is from Georgia, too. I'm from Augusta, Georgia. He's from Georgia.
Mm.
Say, something about them Southern people, when they get together and want to do something, they get them together and they do it. And so I went to work back in California when I got back right after that visit in September. We was able to get the exhibit to Los Angeles first, and we was able to get the exhibit in the Los Angeles Central Library with the help of the Boston Red Sox and the Los Angeles Dodgers and the city of LA. So we created the blueprint, and it works. So once we got into LA, I went in there on December 17th, 2022, and it left on February 19th, 2022. So it was there for Christmas, New Year's, and Black History Month. Then the second mission was to try to get it into Boston. Well, there were other cities that showed interest, and they wanted the exhibit right around this time. And I'm not calling these cities names because they will eventually get it. But through our goodwill, the museum said, hey, we got to go to Boston because Boston is helping us. And I always believe in this word called partnership, because one person can't do it alone.
Sure.
And we needed a facility. And a good friend had a connection to Emerson College. And that was Dr. Charles Steinberg, who's now the president of the WUSOC.
Mm-hmm.
And then Ben Bradley, new the president, and posed the question, could we use one of your facilities to host the exhibit? And then the city came in, they count us in to meet Boston, because they was there with us in September. Then we added the Boston Public Library because they said, hey, we can do something. We can help. So they did a lot of in-kind work. And then I began to get on the phone, and I called 30 different leaders like yourself and said, I need your support. I don't need your money. I need your support. Get people out, spread the word, bring the kids. And lo and behold, we got 30 groups, and there's a flyer, electronic flyer. You have the names on that flyer. And Trinity Church put that information into their church bulletin. And the pastor is going to bring some of his congregation to the exhibit.
Yes.
The Cathedral Church, I was told yesterday, the pastor there, after church Sunday, will be bringing a group. And many of the religious leaders are not telling their people to go. They're actually leading them there.
Lead them there. You know, one of the things that I wanted to ask you is, do you have a promo, an MP3 promo about the exhibit that I could air on the station repeatedly until it's
actually
over?
What I'll do, that's one of the things I have to do.
Okay.
When I get back to my office.
Okay.
We'll produce one. But with this exhibit, we're learning how to do it.
Especially in Boston, how to do it in Boston.
Yes, sir.
Because Boston's different, yeah.
It varied. But one thing that I was sitting at the table, because when I asked people to come volunteer, I believe as a leader they need to see me there too.
Yeah, okay.
So I've been at the exhibit every day at 10, meeting people, greeting kids. I had a group of school kids came in Monday from Dorchester.
Mm-hmm.
Their teachers saw the news coverage, and by the way, the news coverage has been great. So they decided, so the news coverage on Monday morning, by Monday afternoon, she decided, I'm taking my kids to this exhibit.
Mm-hmm.
And overnight, they created a field trip where I was fixing my kids.
Yeah.
And the kids was reading and said, Jesus Christ. And said, Jesus Christ. Said, I didn't know that.
Wow.
And there's a panel that gives history. And in that history, it tells about there were women who played in the Negro League. Black women played in the Negro League.
So, okay, so I didn't know that. So that's news for me.
And I can give out the Negro League website. It's very simple. It's www.NLB, Negro League Baseball Museum.com. And you can go on this site and actually see videos about these women who played baseball.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
And you can go on the site and look at, and it is in an animation, so the kids cannot be bored when they got the information.
Right.
And you can look at the work that the museum is doing. And I do it out of a labor of love because I grew up in the South. My dad played with a team in Augusta, Georgia. And I tell the story, they played for the love of the game because they made no money.
Mm-hmm.
And each one of these men had a real job Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
But on Friday evening, they get together and get on their bus, and the buses were old school buses they bought, and painted white or black, whatever it was. And they carried radiator hoses, spare parts, water, just in case the bus broke down, because they could not get help while they was on the road.
Right.
And I tell the story that my mother and some of the other wives and girlfriends of the players would put together the food for their trip. And their food was commonly fried chicken with homemade biscuits rolled in a brown paper, and they put it in a shoebox. That was how they prepared themselves to go on a trip to play baseball in cities away from home.
Mm-hmm.
And usually they would play at least 3 games. 1 game on a Saturday, maybe 2 on a Saturday.
Okay.
And 1 game on Sunday. But the churches were let out early so that members can go to church and then go to the baseball game.
Wow. Wow.
And these teams was owned by black people.
By black people, yeah.
And these teams brought a thriving economy to those cities. And when you go online and look at that information on the exhibit, and you look at some of those cartoons, animations that talks about the Negro League.
Frank, why did black players? And I think I have the answer, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Why did the black players leave the Negro leagues to break that barrier to be on the white teams? Weren't they doing well?
No. They survived.
They survived. Okay.
And most people who are competitive want to be able to say, I'm as good as this guy.
Okay, yeah.
And their competition level, their desire to say, you kept me out, you locked that door, you wouldn't let me in, but I'm as good as everybody else.
Okay.
And unfortunately, as Major League Baseball integrated, the Negro League popularity began to fall.
Mm-hmm.
So why should I go to a raggedy baseball field somewhere in the woods?
Okay, yeah.
When I can now go to Wrigley Field and see a game and see my favorite player play.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, and the economy. And on Monday, I had the pleasure to MC the event, and I had to give a history lesson as we went through the program. And I told the audience, and by the way, 250 people was at the opening press up.
Okay.
And of that, there was over 100 children there at the press up.
Mm.
And I explained to people that before a Negro League game, there were 2 songs being sung to open the game. One, Lift Every Voice.
Okay, yeah.
Because it told the story of the struggle, but also told the hope that someday things can change.
Mm-hmm.
So it gave inspiration in the Deep South.
Mm-hmm.
Understand the Negro League baseball games and the players in the struggle was a forerunner to the Civil Rights Movement.
Mm-hmm.
All people have to do that, go back and look at history. And the second song that was sung was either the Star Spangled Banner or God Bless America.
Okay.
And why was either one of those songs sung? Because the majority of the Negro League players was veterans.
I see.
They had fought in World War II.
Okay.
So there's, so the reason I can talk like this, because I was a kid, and at 10 years old, my dad drugged me along to be the bat boy. I would much rather be somewhere else playing, and did not know I was getting a history lesson.
Right. Let me let people know we're talking to Frank Jordan. He's a special advisor to the Boston Red Sox and co-founder of the Boston Area Church League. Frank, I don't know if you know this, but for 1 year, I was a assistant chaplain to the New England Patriots, and every time they had a home game, I would go to the stadium and I would minister to them. I did it for 1 year, and then I had some health-related issues. I had my first heart attack, and I had to stop. So, but it was a very interesting experience to work with these players and to grow with them. How did you and why did you establish this relationship of trust with the Boston Red Sox? Because they trust you they've affirmed you by supporting what you've asked them to support. How did this relationship develop, and how long ago did it develop?
Well, it goes way back because I was an advisor to the San Diego Padres baseball team.
Okay.
And Larry Lucchino, who was the former president of the Red Sox when that coalition bought the team. And he said he asked him to come back, he meet with me, yes. And I sat down in a meeting with him and Tom Warner.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, we need to take some of the work that you helped us create here to Boston. He said, it's not going to be easy. It won't be easy.
Mm-hmm.
But we want to try. So when the new owners bought the team, they brought many people from the Lucchino staff with them. And that's what leaders do.
Okay.
They bring people with them that they have a relationship with, and they trust them to try to do the right thing. And coming to Boston was an eye-opener. And one of my greatest joys is that I was very active in the NAACP in California for many years. In fact, I once served as the state president for the NAACP, which was the biggest state conference in the country.
Okay.
And we did civil rights. I was the San Diego branch president during the Rodney King riots.
Mm-hmm.
And we took a stand while the riots was going on in L.A. And we said, we will not allow people to burn down our own neighborhood because you're mad.
Yeah.
And that message resonated throughout the city. So we did not have the violence. Because when we have these riots, we're supposed to be mad at everybody else. And it don't make no sense for you to kill your own people.
Right.
And burn down the only grocery store you got.
Yeah.
Now, Mama didn't raise no food, but this don't make sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did do things. We tried to do things that made sense. So when we came to Boston, we began to outreach and meet people. And I was in the Church of God in Christ. And my bishop, who is deceased now, Bishop Justin McKinney, had a friend named Bishop Sam Hogan.
Yes.
And I met with Bishop Hogan.
Mm-hmm.
He was a good man. Whatever I can do, let's do this.
Yeah.
And over time, I realized that kids and numbers don't really play baseball in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
One, because of economics. Two, because of the interest. And we had to do something to make it fun. Like our kids, they play in a T-shirt league. And the reason being is I brought back that Sandlot mindset that we used to play in the South.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have balls. We didn't have gloves. We didn't have uniforms. We just got together and played ball. Your street against my street.
Mm-hmm.
And the kids played, and we didn't have a go-to vision.
Mm.
It was You're out, you're out. And if somebody got mad, the kids chastise themselves. You need to go down and shut up. Let's keep playing.
Mm-hmm.
Creating a situation that children want to do it. And for years, we only had boys playing. And I began to realize that Saturdays, when we began to teach the kids, the boys would be playing, the girls would be sitting in the stand or sitting in a chair, watching their brothers play. And many times the girls would say, we want to play too. And we started that process. So it's a co-ed league for kids 6 to 8 and 9 to 12.
Frank, having a person from outside of the city of Boston, from California, coming into Boston, into Massachusetts, to establish something like this, you know, Boston pastors and leaders are very territorial. So you talk about the baseball players breaking the barrier. You broke a barrier to set up what you have now in this city.
And by the way, the program is now 21 years old. And, of course, we invited people to participate. And many did. And I heard your story yesterday about sometimes you got to depart.
Yep.
Sometimes people have to go their own way.
Yep.
And it's okay to go your own way. But when you create a product, you create a program that's dear to your heart, you're not going to let anybody come and give it their twist. Because God gives you the vision. And by the way, I can't do the things that I do without God intervention.
Right.
I did not know on that Friday last year that we was going to actually be able to get this exhibit in L.A. and in Boston. I said, we're going to try. God says, try. And I tell people about my God. If you really believe in God, He will guide you. You must pray. You must believe. But more than that, you got to put the work in. You got to put the work in. And I'm a firm believer. Prayer without work is dead. Because my God says, when you want something, He will help you, but you got to do some work yourself too. And I tell the story when I speak sometimes. I think some of my Christian brothers and sisters think God is like McDonald's. Put your order in, drive around the corner, and pick up your miracle. No, brother. Ask God for the strength and guidance to achieve that miracle.
Faith without works,
it's dead.
It's dead. Right.
It's in the Bible.
Yeah.
It tells you. And if we understand that, and really understand that, we will get to the end of the road, and when we get there, we'll be happy. Because the job has been done correctly. And you know, it's so amazing that I'm 3 hours behind you on the West Coast.
Okay.
So I'm up at 5:30 every morning anyway, because I have to do business on the East Coast, and sometimes I will go online and listen to your broadcast. And I see your station personnel, they're trying their best to keep that radio station on.
Yeah.
They're doing their best for people to come on and make statements, push their program, which is good. But I say to everybody, if you use the radio station to help your cause, make sure you help them to stay alive and vital. It's a two-way street. It's a two-way street. So that's basically it. And I know Boston politics more than some politicians.
You told me, some of our conversations, you've spoken to me about Boston politics, and I said, how did he learn that? How did he know that?
I got my scars, and I got my joy. And a lot of your people here, we have developed friendships, and they come to the West Coast, and we will set up a time, and people will come by my house.
Okay.
And we'll have fellowship. We break out the barbecue grill. I get on the phone and call some friends and say, I got friends coming in. Let's show them a great time. Let's show them a great meal. And I have a long list of people that have visited me in my home.
That's amazing.
And my dear friend, Professor Charles Overtree, him and his wife.
Yes.
My dear friend.
Yeah.
I would bring Charles to California, L.A., San Diego, and other cities to do book signings. And I'll have his book signings in churches. And one thing Charles wanted to do as a part of the deal, I got to have one day to go fishing. I don't fish, but that's my friend.
Right.
So I would get people together.
Yep.
And we will go down to the docks and take a half-day boat. And Charles loved to take that rod and throw it in the ocean to try to catch that fish. In fact, his last trip to the West Coast, where he announced that he had the onset of Alzheimer's, was one of our glorious trips. And as of now, one of the most brilliant minds in law.
Yeah.
Him and his family, especially his wife, who's a great lady, are going through the process of Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, when some of the conventions were out my way, when William Ross was the commissioner, we got together, him and a few other people at my house, and he wanted some soul food, man. He said, I got to have soul food. I can't just eat this chips and dips. So we get down to my good friend, and we fellowship. And there's some elected officials in the out west.
Right.
Right.
Relationships of trust are developed by doing what you're talking about, especially when you're bringing people into your home.
Yeah. And so we're blessed. And when I first started coming here, I had my two youngest kids with me. They was like 8, no, they was like 6 and 7. Because my late wife had passed away. And here I am with 2 kids. One 618, something like that. And it's a black man traveling with 2 kids.
Mm.
And my kids went everywhere I went.
Mm-hmm.
And when I would bring them here, I would be working, and I would hire a tutor
mm-hmm.
to help my kids learn how to read and do math while I was away doing stuff here in the city. And I did that process when I was in D.C. doing work, wherever.
Mm-hmm.
So they grew up traveling. They grew up meeting people. In fact, the relationship with Larry Lukio went beyond me being on the right foot. We became good friends. And he would call him his children, and they would call him Uncle Larry.
Mm.
You know, here's the people that have millions of dollars and a lot of success. But there's a common bond that we have to each other when it comes to children.
Mm-hmm.
And our personal relationship with God. And I would always invite people to join that church on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
I took pride in inviting people to church with me.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was in town, everybody knew that Frank Jordan was in town. Because there were 3 rows in the church roped off because Frank got guests this morning. And I worked with the union, I worked with the civil rights movement, and I have no problem to say, join me at church.
That's
and
good.
People would come.
Mm-hmm.
My good friend, Tom Kershaw, who owns Cheers, has spent minutes a day
mm-hmm.
on the West Coast, and we went to church together.
Mm.
And there are other people on this. It's just a blessing.
It is a significant blessing, and it helps you to develop the bond and the depth of relationships that you have with so many people. We have about 3 minutes left, and so I need you to tell people about the exhibit again, how long it's going to be here, what the exhibit is for those who are just tuning in.
Well, the exhibit is titled The Negro Baseball Museum Touring Exhibit, titled Barrier Breakers. It is the story of the black and Latin players that broke the color barrier in each Major League Baseball team. It starts with Jackie Robinson's story and go all the way through the other players and end with Pumpsy Green, who was the last player to play with the Major League Baseball team. And Pumpsy Green played with the Boston Red Sox.
Mm-hmm.
And they tell that story. And on Monday, the president of the Red Sox explained about their history of shame. So these new guys who bought the Red Sox don't hold back. They put it on the table. What happened wasn't right, and we try to do better. And you can go to the exhibit for free. It is at 118 Boston Street in the Emerson College District. It's open from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Please go. Take your children, but more than that, take yourself and take time to read the panels and learn something about history I guarantee you didn't know. And you're welcome. And one last other thing, Pastor. those two little kids I used to drag with me.
Yes.
My daughter got her BA from Georgetown. And then the pandemic hit. Then 2 years ago, she went back to school.
Mm-hmm.
And she just got her master's in business management from Johns Hopkins.
Mm.
And what a glorious day that was.
Congratulations.
And my son James, that little boy, is now 6'2". Just finished his commitment in the U.S. Marine Corps. He was discharged from the Marine Corps with honorable discharge on May 21st, on a Monday. And that Tuesday, my daughter got her master's degree.
Wow.
And my son is going back to college. And he started his own business. He's already bought his first condo. And for that, what a blessing it is to the Jordan family.
Well, I'm proud to and pleased to have a friendship with you, and I'm going to be leaving Boston as soon as this broadcast is over, and I'll be back on Sunday, and I'll give you a call next week and give you an update on what's been happening with me since we've talked personally.
I'll tell you this, and we got a lot of commonalities. 15 years ago, I had 3 heart attacks back to back. I was put in a coma. That induced to save my life for 3 months. And the doctors didn't give me a good chance to live.
Yeah.
And it's only by the grace of God that I'm still here. And God will be with you, my friend. He'll be with all of us. If we only believe and we put the words out in our prayers into action. When we do that, I believe in God. There's a good God. But sometimes being a Christian don't mean you don't have pain.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that with me again, because that, as you share that as a member of the body of Christ, it helps me to believe and to overcome any unbelief that I have